Hey everybody, it's Tuesday, May 31st, and this is Draftbit Office Hours. I'm Dave. Um, Give me 1 second. I'm trying to get Alan in with us. Oh, here he is. All right. Hey,
Hello. Hi.
cool. All right. So I was just telling everybody, I'm Dave, and you're Alan,
I'm Alan. I'm an engineer at Draftbit. Hello, everybody.
one of our 10x developers. We have four of them. So
Oh, basically 40 engineers, right?
awesome. All right. Well, good to have you here, dude.
Nice to be here.
Lyota said Alan is a rock star. Yeah, he is a rock star. Look at the guitars. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, got more guitars than I probably should have, but what can I say? I love them.
Awesome.
I have as a background.
It's a great background. I mean, I'm jealous. So,
Wow.
how was the concert, dude?
It was awesome. Yeah. I just saw Metallica this past weekend. Flew out to Boston and saw a great show.
That's great, dude.
You know how to bring.
Metallica. You saw Nine Inch Nails.
That's right. Nine Inch Nails, Weezer, and Run the Jewels, and a few other artists. It was a blast. Weather
Sounds
was
awesome.
excellent, and yeah, good time.
Is that first time you've been to Boston?
Well, I was actually born in Boston. I
Ah,
moved to Chicago when I was like 3 years old. So I've been back a couple of times since then, but never for longer than a few days. But yeah, it's a great town. Tons of green space, and we went to the zoo, did some park stuff, and a friend of mine has an office with a rooftop deck that overlooks the Boston Harbor, which is really beautiful. So it's a great trip.
that's great, dude. Awesome. I've never been that far north. North Carolina is the farthest I've been up that direction. So I'd like to get up there, visit
Yeah,
New York and Boston sometime.
absolutely. I mean, there's so many great cities and nature as well in the Northeast. So yeah, Boston's great. New Haven, that's where my sister lives. That's a great town. New York City, of course. Philadelphia, Baltimore, DC, all that stuff.
Yo, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what is some stuff you've been working on lately?
As
Or
far
some
as
of the stuff you shipped, like I guess like some of the things that people have seen lately that you've had your hand in.
yeah, so I think so. There was some improvements to screen variables where we got access to the fields on objects and screen variables. There was some improvements to transformations in when you select a variable and you want to transform it. Now you can apply. Parameters in your custom functions. If you have a custom function that takes multiple arguments, you can apply extra variables to satisfy those parameters, which is pretty fun.
It's a great new feature. Yeah, like really cool.
Yeah, yeah. So like some fun new features within the sort of function space in Draftbit.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you can show us maybe some of that transform stuff in a little bit. That'd be cool.
Yeah, happy to.
All right. Well, so we've got lots of people here today. We've got Rahul and George and Amit and Duncan McDonald. I've not seen you, so hey, nice to see you. Lyoto, good to see you. If you guys have questions, put them in the Ask a Question section so we can keep track. And other than that, we'll just see what happens. Let's see. I've got some things here. Oh, Alan, well, I've got you. Okay. Is there a way that I can stop an action stack from running from within a custom function? So, like, think about a conditional stop, but, like, actually trigger it from within a custom function in that stack.
Yeah, so the simplest way to do that is just to raise an exception.
Okay.
Inside of every action, if that action throws an exception, then the chain will stop, and you'll see the error get logged to your screen, and that's as far as it'll go. So if you have any reason to stop a chain of actions, you want to do that from a custom function, then you can just raise an exception. Any exception will do.
That's awesome. Good to know. All right. I think that's what George mentioned earlier. So great. Yeah. Thank you. All right. There was somebody in the community that was wanting to do some logic in their action, that conditional stop didn't cut it. Like they need to compare two values and see if they're like equal or whatever, you know what I mean? So like, seems like that combined with the new transform stuff, he could probably accomplish what he's trying to do.
Yeah, that's right. If you want to you can make a custom function which takes in as many arguments as you need to compare. Does a Boolean, like an if statement in there, and if some condition that you want to stop on is true, then just have that function raise an exception, and your action chain will terminate. So.
Awesome. So what are some of the other use cases for the new transform stuff?
Yeah, let's see. So what are some of the cases we've come up with? Like currency conversion, for example, if you want to convert, like say you have a custom function that takes in like an amount of money, and then a second argument being like the currency that money is in. And does some kind of conversion to from one currency to the next, maybe from like US
or dollars to cents. Like if you have your value in dollars and you need to send it in cents, like to Stripe.
Cents, sure, yeah, or in I don't know, euros or yen or whatever it is. You can have you can add an extra parameter to that function, which is the unit of currency, and can supply that via an additional parameter to your function. You could also do something like that with time zones, for example. If you want to enter in a time, like in a date picker, and have the, or if you have a custom date picker of some kind and you want to pass in your time zone you can add an extra argument to your function to do that.
Yeah, or you could pass you could have a prop for the format and a prop for the date, and you could pass the date in and then like whatever format you want if you're using like a function to transform your date. That would be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything. So until very recently, of course, we only allowed a transform to take in a single parameter, which was able to do a lot of things, but was somewhat limited. But now you can have 20 parameters if you want on your function, and pass in as much data as you need, and all that data can be data, dynamic runtime data. So anything you can plug into to an action or to anywhere where data appears.
Right. If you've got a screen variable, you can pass it in, or if you've got a value from a previous action, you can pass it down into it. So yeah. Well, George is saying a demo. We had talked about a demo. You want to show a demo? I mean,
well, we can certainly make something.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
sure,
casual here.
All right. Let's see. Let me
take your time.
Yeah, for sure.
No questions so far. I guess that's a good thing. Putting you guys on the spot. It's okay, George. I primed him a little bit beforehand, told him like we might want to demo some stuff. So
yeah. Well, I might be seeking out some ideas for what we can build with it. So
yeah, we can.
Happy to drive and demo and see how far we get. Now let's see, where is my screen share?
If you hover over your image, there should be a
share screen. There it is.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. might have to restart my browser. We'll see.
Permissions.
Permissions, yes. Let's see. Let me see if it'll let me do it at runtime here.
Yeah, George, the date, phone number, currency formats are good. Yeah, anytime you want to concatenate, I mean, it's a great place to concatenate strings or values.
Or like numerical operations, for example.
Yep.
You need to multiply things or add things, or Boolean conditions. Say if you need to like compare if A is greater than B, some kind.
Or if you've got three things that you need to compare, you know.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I will have to quit and reopen. So
it's okay, no problem.
Let me hop back on in a minute. See you soon.
All right. Well, while he's doing that, I'm gonna try to find something to talk about, I guess. What else have we got? We released maps last week, or the week before, which is cool. And we've got the transform functions out but not released. And we're working on push notification tokens and something else, George, I'm forgetting. You're back.
I'm back. That was fast. All right. Now, the old Draftbit. Share the screen.
Cool. Yep, I see it.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's create a new app. Let's call it Demo 53122. Start with a blank app. All right. Well, we had a question about conditionally stopping with the custom functions. So maybe we could do that and demo the extra parameters to a custom function at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So I'm going to add a button so I have something that I can run actions off of. And then what kind of actions should we play around with here? Anything come to mind? We could just console log. That's it's kind of a boring one, but maybe, I mean, it would be enough to demonstrate the concept, maybe not in the most exciting way.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly fine for this particular situation. So.
All right, sure. Well, I'll do something visual on the screen. Let's see. Let's add a text field, and I'm just going to have it display something here. Let's see. How about it'll show a color, which is just text for now. And I want to have this be in a screen variable so that I can change it. So I'm going to go up to my variables, add a screen variable, call it color, and maybe its initial value is red. And save that guy. And I'm going to choose this to show it on the screen. All right, so color is red. Let's make this nice and big, about 64 points. Hey, there we go. All right, now I can do here is go to my button, just call this run actions. That's what the button says. All right, so then what should we start with? Maybe, how about we change this variable maybe to be blue? New value is blue. All right. And then maybe we can add another action. Add another action that changes it to green. And then what I'm thinking we could do is maybe have it, let's see, we'll put in a run a custom function guy here. And where's my run a custom? Oh, I got to create a custom function first. All right. So what I'm thinking could be kind of fun is I'll put in like a function that does that makes a random number, and if the random number is with 50% probability, it will raise an exception and stop the action. And then if the function doesn't raise, then it will go to the next action in the chain. We can kind of simulate. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't.
Awesome. Yeah, good.
All right. So add this here. Call this stop randomly. And it's going to say if math.random is greater than 0.5, then throw new error, stop. All right. So now I should be able to see this working. So I'm going to say set a variable. So set this color to blue, and then run a custom function choosing my stop randomly function. And then make a new variable setting color to green. All right. So now I should have something enough to demo.
Yeah.
So as I click this, it will sometimes go to blue and sometimes go to green. Let's see if it works. All right. Blue, green, green, blue, green, blue. There you go. All right.
Nice, dude. Awesome.
some randomness here, and we can see in the console logs here that when that custom function throws an exception, we see this error pop up in the console logs, and we can see in the code here for those curious that we have this, we wrap all the actions that we have get wrapped in a try catch, which just catches any error thrown and will log the error to the console, which is why you get that behavior. It doesn't bubble up and kill your app. It stops inside of the chain.
Yeah, George said we can now make a traffic light app in Draftbit.
That's right. That's right. We definitely could.
I mean, not now, but
maybe not now, but we could.
Okay. All right. So now can we pass some stuff into that function now and show how we?
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know.
Let's see. So maybe we can make things interesting. Maybe we can have a slider to choose our probability. And we can let's see what our slider value can be in between. Let's see. All right, min value will be 0. Max value will be 100. And our step will be 1. Let's just see that working first. Add another text. Show the slider value. Set that to our slider value. All right. Go up here. Okay. So this will be, maybe this will control the probability that this will that will turn from either green to blue.
Yeah.
Now, so one way to do that is to access this directly in the definition of the function. In our stop randomly function, we can say if math.random is greater than like our slider value.
That's right. We can access our screen variables directly in these functions. Isn't that right?
That is correct. Yeah. So one example of this would be to say, okay, if math.random is greater than slider value divided by 100, then I'll throw a new error stop. And when this is one way to do this, where we directly access this inside of the definition of the function. So
we could pass it in if we prefer. We could pass it in. It's also accessible from our actions, so we can pass it down.
That's right. So so in this case, let's see how this looks when we just access it directly. So in this case, it should always be blue because there's a 0% probability. If I slide this to 100, it should always be green. And then if I go somewhere in the middle, then it's mostly blue and sometimes green, et cetera, et cetera. So awesome. That's one way to do it is directly putting it in the function definition. And another way to do it is to add a parameter to this function. Maybe say probability. And we will add and make this greater than the probability. And then if I want to pass in a probability, so I'm going to add another custom function here. And this will help me calculate my probability. So get probability and just make this my number parameter and then a base parameter here. And it will return number divided by base. So in this case, I'll pass in the slider value and then I'll pass in 100. And we can see all this stuff working together now. So how can I get these functions to work together? I'll go back to my action where I am calling my custom function. And now I see that I have a parameter here for probability, and I can select a value for it. So I'm going to start with the slider value. But the slider value is from 0 to 100, and I want a probability from 0 to 1. So I need to transform it, and transform it with my get probability function. And now I can see that I have another argument to pass in. So the first argument to get probability will be whatever I start with. The starting value is the first argument that gets passed in. And then any remaining arguments get shown below here. So I can choose a base below.
And this is the new features for the transform functions that that you released recently that we were talking about earlier.
That's right. That's right. So we now like any number of arguments are now supported inside of transforms. They've always been supported if you're just running a custom function action, but transforms were always limited to a single argument, and that's no longer the case. So I'm going to pass in a base of 100. Of course, I could have another variable for that if I wanted to, but I'm just going to hard code that value in. And we should see the same behavior here. So when I click this button, it'll go to blue because the probability is 0. Always 0. Always blue. Always blue. Always blue. And then when I slide it up to 100, I'm always green. And let's put it up at like maybe 77. Sure, why not? So I'm mostly green, and you should see the occasional blue. Where's that blue? There it is.
George said always blue too.
Exactly. So 3 out of 4 roughly for green, and then the occasional blue in there.
Very cool, dude.
And yeah, so we can see here just to see how it shows up in the code. The first value that I start with here is always passed in as the first argument to my transformation function, and then any number of other functions or other parameters will just show up as additional arguments there.
Awesome.
And yeah, so that's how this feature will work. We could.
Can we show people just how to like put two things together?
Yeah, sure.
A pretty common use case for people.
Absolutely. So sure, let's just start off with the new screen here. And maybe I'll add a piece of text here. And I can say just maybe put in a single message here. And let's just show off like string concatenation, for example. So hello, I'm going to transform it with, let's see. Oh, I need to make a custom function first. So, and we will at some point be adding this as a primitive, so you don't have to create your own concatenation function. But for now, just create one myself. So stir1, stir2, two strings, and then I'm just going to return stir1, sure, with a space between it. Why not? Stir2. I'll just call
we could add a parameter for.
Oh yeah, sure. Let's do that. Separator. All right. So concat, and then this will be a. Let's see. Let's call this separator. Let's just say let's make this separator, and stir2. All right, and. Go. Now we got our concat function here. And we'll go in for a message. We'll start off with hello. We'll transform with concat. And we'll say world. Second argument. And then my separator, let's go with comma space. And now we have hello world.
Boom.
Message on the screen.
Super easy. A small change, but a huge quality of life improvement for our users. So great work.
Absolutely. Well, what should we look at next? Any questions so far? Any?
No questions. No, everybody's I think just watching in awe.
Well, that's excellent.
If you got any other ideas for how to demo the transform or any of the stuff or just anything really that you want to show off or talk about, it's fine.
Let's see. Another good thing to show off. Yeah, the big things that I'm working on is an overhaul of templates, which will allow us to pass colors through in templates, but it's not quite ready yet. Otherwise, I'd be demoing that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm looking forward to that. Well, out there, if you guys can hear me, does anybody have any ideas or questions about how to use transform, the new stuff, or I don't know, a specific use case that you're curious about? Let us know.
Make another one just while we're at it. Make a numerical one. So how about do math stuff? X, Y, Z. Do math dot square root x times x plus y times y plus z times z, and might as well just call this Pythagorean. And pass in some math. Let's see, number will be 3. Transform with Pythagorean. 4 and 5. Did I not have a return on there? I think I didn't. too used to my functional programming language. All right. And we can maybe add another argument to truncate this guy. Let's see, max digits. Let's do put this into a string and slice it from 0 to max digits. Save that guy. And then maybe give it a max of I don't know, 10 digits. And then it turns it down.
Very nice.
Everything works. Is that tension in a demo? Like, is it gonna
Always worried, man. I've been there. So nice job.
Excellent.
All right. We got a question that popped up. Let's see. Unrelated to the current topic, but is there a way to add custom functionality to usable components instantiated via a fetched list? I'm gonna read that again. Unrelated to, is there a way to add custom functionality to usable components instantiated via a fetched list?
Custom functionality to usable components instantiated via fetch list. Well, I guess the answer is yes. It depends on what kind of custom functionality one needs. So we're currently kind of beta testing a feature of adding a new kind of custom component capability, wherein you can just define entirely your own component. And then have it show up in your list of components alongside, texts and buttons and sliders and everything else. And you can make whatever kind of component you want under that system. So that's, a preview of what's to come in that. That's the kind of custom functionality that we're currently working on, which we hope to be releasing soon. There's the, you can always have inside of a list component. If you have a fetch that returns an array, you can put a list component under that fetch component and put a custom component under that list, and should be able to do any kind of custom functionality you want that way. So that's those are two of the ways. And then, of course, if you want to just customize a function, customize a component within a list, you can do any of the customizations as far as, props and styling and all that you can do in any Draftbit component. So I'm not sure if that answers the question. It depends on the intended behavior that the user is asking for.
Yeah, he says, can you differentiate the functionality between items in the list? So I guess he's wanting to trigger a different action based on the item in the list. Is that what you're trying to do, Duncan? Yes.
Okay. Well, so there's we could do this with well, here, let me just try and get some examples that we can play around with.
Cool.
So if I just add a screen variable for a data, make this an array, object array, and maybe say ID is 1 and value is hello and ID is 2.
You're missing the closing parentheses on hello.
Thank you.
I mean, quotation marks, sorry.
Right. Yeah. No, I got you. All right. Valid JSON. Good. All right. So save that guy. And then I can put this in list. So let's make a list component here. assign its data to screen variable here. And then inside of this, maybe I want to make a, sure, let's just make a text for simplicity. So one way to customize the behavior within this. So right now I just have 2 items here. Let's see, maybe value, select the value in the list. And I show hello world here. I'm just going to hide that other text that I have here. So we just see hello world. So any of the data that's inside of the objects in this list, I have as I have available as values that I can put into my text. I can also maybe conditionally render. So here, let me expand this a little bit more. Just add something to this guy. Oh, of course, I have to retype it. I'm going to type it in another text field. Let's see, I'm going to make ID1 value. Whoa. Sorry, I'm typing off screen here, but I'll be back on in a second. 2 value. Okay, so I'm just going to paste in JSON I just made just to get some more values in there. Okay, so now I have some greetings here, and maybe conditionally I only want to render the ones which have, let's say, an ID that is even, just as an arbitrary example. So I can conditionally choose a conditional on ID, and I can transform it with, let's see, let's make a custom function for that. So add is even, and return num mod 2 equals 0. All right, save that, and I can transform my IDs with is even, and now I will only render the ones which have even IDs.
Awesome.
And so that's an example of using data inside of using the data that's inside of the objects in my list to customize, either in this case, customize what gets shown. I could also, if I had some, some action running.
Yeah, you can have a button right inside your list item,
right?
Like pass stuff to that action, and it would operate on the data that you pass to it.
That is correct. So if I have this guy here, maybe value there. So one option here is to have a screen. Let's make a screen variable here, just for some text. Oh, I'm not sure what's.
Were you dragging a component in the tree?
I was dragging a component in the tree.
It happens. Yeah, we have an issue with that. It happens to me at least once a day.
No. Probably something with the nesting rules that's off, but
see, I think it might be there's a delay in it showing up in the list and rendering on the screen, and if you try to move it in the list before it's completely rendered on the screen, that seems to me like it's when it happens. There's like a
okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's I have a vague idea of where that could be the issue, where the issue could be, but well, we'll see if we can hopefully fix that soon.
Topic for another day.
So let's just make a little text here, message, and make a screen variable for this guy. Let's call this message. And initially it'll just be nothing. And then maybe when I click on this button, let's configure it to use this guy here. Message, here we go. And when I click on a button, I want to add an action which sets my screen variable to the value inside of the data. So here I'm customizing my action based on data that's unique to each item in the list. So hopefully this is relevant to Duncan's question here. And just to show this working, if I run this guy here, as I click hello, hi, yo, what's up, these individually populate that message. And anything that you can do inside of these actions, conditional stops, custom functions, logging, firing off an API request, any of that stuff is going to be unique to the item inside of the list that I'm on, as long as I'm selecting something from inside of this list item section here.
Right. So you could do things like you could have a list of items that you like favorite, or like that has, an action that you're executing for each one, just like, or just sending them to a new screen, right? A detail screen from a list, like you pass the ID or something to your detail screen. So
that's right.
Great demo. Thank you. Awesome. Sure. Hopefully, Duncan, that helped you out. Let us know. Yes, he said, thank you. Very helpful. All right.
Excellent. Glad to hear it.
Super. All right. Well, yeah, he says one follow-up if we have time. Sure. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Alan, mechanical keyboard.
That's right. Yeah. Mechanical split keyboard. I got this.
Oh, it's a split. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Kinesis Freestyle. It's not the Freestyle Pro. It says Kinesis Gaming on it. I don't remember exactly what the model is, but yeah, it's there. They make a pretty decent mechanical keyboard.
I have an aversion to them, and I don't know if it's because like that's all that existed when I was younger and using computers. I mean, we're pretty similar in age, but yeah. Like I don't know. Like I've tried to but I can't. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I like them. I like the feedback, and they're customizable too. Like you can get different switches for them, and
yes,
configure the action and all that. So some people get really into them. I just bought one and I like it. So it's good enough for me.
Yeah, I've seen like they have all the kits, like the key kits and everything that you can like, and there's even companies that make like custom keys for you and all that. It's pretty cool.
One of my cousins like actually builds his own keyboards. Like he's a woodworker, so he like builds a wooden tray for it and then wires it all up. He's a very smart guy.
That's cool. I was actually going to say, I saw one a while back that was wood and it was like customizable. It was split and it was wood and like you could take things apart and interchange them and shit. It was very cool. So
yeah, people make some really awesome stuff.
It is. Okay. So Duncan says, I was running into an issue with check boxes in lists where they all register off a single selection in the list. Could that be handled the same way? Yes. So what might have happened is like if you like copied your checkbox, then all your copies are gonna all reference the same variable, and that's probably what happened in your situation. That's why they're all like activating or deactivating when you push just one of them. Does that sound right to you, Alan?
That does sound right. Yeah. So there's basically two different ways that you can have an item like a checkbox configured. One is that it references a screen variable directly. So just like a create a variable on a screen to hold the value, and then I make a checkbox that references that variable, or it creates it automatically under certain conditions. And if you have multiple components which all reference the same variable, then they'll all share the same state. So the other way to do it is that you don't assign it to a single variable. Instead, you just give it an initial value where, like, it's, you, for example, I make a fetch, and each item that's returned back in the fetch has like some Boolean flag on it, and I use that to set the initial value of the checkbox. And then when I update the checkbox, it fires off an action instead. In fact, I can just demo that.
It creates its own. Yeah, it creates its own. Sorry, I'm blanking out, but sorry, I completely lost what I was going to say.
It creates, well, so it's like it either has,
it creates its own. It creates its own variable, right? Each one, if you don't assign them all to a specific variable, they create their own like variable, basically.
Yeah. So let me just show how it looks. I don't know. See if I can demo that a little bit. So first of all, if I create a checkbox, just like at screen level, just add one here. Then, so you'll see here that the checkbox is automatically configured to have as its data source a screen variable called checkbox value. And I can look in here, my screen variables, and see there's this checkbox value that's created for that checkbox. But if I do that inside of a list, so if I take this guy and like, here's my checkbox down here. I can check it and uncheck it, and it works as you expect. But if I take that and I put it inside of a list, drag it in there. Now I have a checkbox inside of the list. Now all of these will share the same state. And that's because each one of them is reading from and writing to that's the same variable. So the way that you would set this up properly inside of a list, it will depend somewhat on the circumstances and what you're trying to accomplish. But let's just say, let me just try and modify this app that I have here to support that behavior, just so we can demo it here. So I'm going to make a screen variable that stores which IDs are checked and which ones aren't. And so I'm just going to make this an array of numbers. And let's see, checked IDs. Give it an initial value of an empty array and set it. And then I'm going to make a function which toggle selected ID passes in a parameter of an ID. And I'm going to say if selected IDs dot sum ID equals ID. Then I'm going to do set. So if this is already selected, then I'm going to deselect it by removing it. I use selected IDs dot filter and filter out my selected ID. It's not equal to this ID that I'm passing in. Otherwise, I'm going to add it. Set selected IDs, and I'm going to do selected IDs, selected IDs, ID. All right, so hopefully the idea here is somewhat clear. I can either add or remove this ID that I'm selecting based on whether or not it's already present in the array. Hopefully I got that logic right. And then I'm going to go in and customize my checkbox inside of the list here. And instead of having a data source of checkbox value on the screen, I'm just going to I'm going to choose this select initial value option. And this way, currently they're not set to track anything, so I have to give it an initial value. and the initial value will be this ID. And I need one more thing here. I need to check if it's selected. So add a function here, is selected for a particular ID, and I'm going to return selected IDs dot sum ID. So I'm going to say, okay, is my ID selected? That's now a function that I have access to, and I can transform my ID with whether or not selected. Oh, selected IDs is not defined. What did I call that? Checked IDs. Okay. I'm just going to make a new one because I already wrote those functions up. Selected IDs. All this number array JSON. Save that. I don't need this anymore. Okay, so now none of them are checked, and it still won't be if they will pretend like they are, but if I want to actually update my selected IDs, I need to make an action that does it. Set variable, run a custom function. Run a custom function, toggle selected ID. And the argument is not the new checkbox value, but instead the current ID in my list. And now let me show my selected IDs here. Rather than this message guy, I'm just going to say select selected IDs and transform with JSON stringify. All right, so initially this is blank. And then if I set everything up correctly, now this contains 1. Now it contains 1 and 2. Now it contains only 2. And amazingly, that all worked.
Very nice.
So you can see that inside of a list, the takeaway here is that inside of a list, you typically will need, for stateful components, for things that store state inside of a list, you typically need to set up something more complex. That could be, this action could be setting a variable like I'm doing here. It could be firing off an API request, or it can be, something that's specific to your to whatever is populating this list. But if you just have a single checkbox or a single text input or whatever that is living at at screen level or is not inside of a list, then usually it will just work out of the box. But for other types of components, it requires more finagling by you. So hopefully that was helpful to kind of walk through, and I didn't lose everybody in the details, but there we go.
Yeah, great demo. Yeah, that was great. And Duncan says that was very helpful. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Happy to hear it.
Yeah, it's great. All right, well, no more questions. And we're getting about the hour mark, so we'll plan on wrapping up, everybody, unless you guys have any more quick final questions. So we'll give you a couple minutes. Alan, what got you into programming?
What got me into programming? So I did not study programming in college. I studied physics in college. Didn't love physics. So by the time I graduated, I was like, I don't want to do this. And I tried a couple of other things. I worked in a bio lab, and then I taught English in Japan for a few years, and none of that was really clicking either. And I was listening to a podcast in a grocery store in Japan. I still very clearly remember this. And I was like, it was talking about AI and how some professor at Cornell had programmed a bunch of robots to teach themselves how to walk by giving them a set of goals, and they basically just figured out how to move all their actuators to flail themselves around and get themselves across the room somehow. And I just thought, wow, that is so cool. That's so interesting. How does that all work? And I was like, I bet I could teach myself some basics of programming. And I decided right then that I was gonna learn that. And I fired up MIT OpenCourseWare and started teaching myself Python. And and eventually went back to grad school and got a job in it. But I didn't do any AI. But that was the catalyst.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yep.
Well, we're lucky to have you on Draftbit team. So.
Well, likewise. Happy to be here. And yeah, thanks for hosting this. It's a lot of fun. I'm glad I finally got to do an office hours with you.
Yeah, dude, it's super fun having you. And obviously, you're welcome to join me or Rahul or George or anybody anytime. So super helpful.
I'll look forward to coming back.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I guess that's it for today. Next episode is on Thursday at 1 with George. So see y'all then.
All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Thanks for the questions, Uncle.